And welcome back for another Mantasy Fantasy Football little video. This is just going to talk about the values and the bust from the draft right before the season starts, which it has already, but the majority of the season is about to start. So, I'm here in Columbus, Ohio, so I'm going to start talking about the values of the draft. So, we're going to start with the beginning of the draft where you had Scott Webb, who got Julio in the third round, and Julio is very consistent. We know that he's going to be a top 5. He's going to get the targets. Atlanta's going to be down constantly, and Atlanta throws the ball a lot. Having Julio there and selecting him over the uncertain running backs, I think is a great selection from Scott. But where Scott went wrong, his 5th or 6th, he selected DeAndre Swift when he could have got the rookies that have a better chance of getting the workload, like Antonio Gibson or Cam Akers. So I think that DeAndre Swift is a regret of Scott's. Obviously, Adrian Peterson signed afterwards, so there's a little bit more information now. Then we had myself, and with my second pick, I got Aaron Jones, like I was talking about before. I would have selected Aaron Jones over Joe Mixon. I would have selected him over Miles Sanders. I would have selected him over Drake. Even though those guys might have higher upside, their floor for those uncertainties is really low. I mean, last year Joe Mixon was being dropped in leagues because of the fact that he wasn't producing for 9 straight weeks. Miles Sanders had a hamstring issue, and he wasn't being able to outplay Jordan Howard last year. And that's just crazy. So my bust potentially would be Darren Waller. Tight ends are notoriously being known for busting within the rounds like 6 to 9 range. And the Raiders brought in a lot of other receiving talent, so we'll see what happens there. At the third spot, we had Jeff Carr. Jeff Carr selected Patrick Mahomes with his second pick. I'm not saying Mahomes is a bad quarterback, but just to give you a perspective of the quarterback value that delivers there is Patrick Mahomes had a good game on Thursday night. And we have this perception that he's a great quarterback. And his team did very well, and they won. But he just only got 20 points. And what I mean by that, yeah, he'll have his big games, but let's compare that to Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson had 20 points as well, and his game looked terrible. But garbage points, regular points, it doesn't really matter. I think that selecting a quarterback 2 in our league, even if it is Lamar or if it's Mahomes, it's just not a value traditionally within our league. I haven't seen it be a value. And yeah, but with Jeff Carr, he got Antonio Gibson in the 8th. Getting a starting running back in the 8th is very difficult, and being hyped up as much as he is, it's very exciting to see what he does. He didn't really run the ball all that much in Memphis, but there's a lot of fantasy analysts out there that are hyping him up. Let's get another angle in there. Ooh, Arena District. And for our next 3, we had Jeff Hedges selecting Miles Sanders in the 2nd round, which I think is a bust. In a sense that, yes, he's very talented. Yes, when he gets the workload, he's going to be fine. But when you have somebody that has an injury, on top of Jordan Howard was outplaying him last year, on top of Julio still on the board, Aaron Jones is still on the board, I think that the safer pick would be those picks. So Miles Sanders would be my bust for Jeff Hedges, but he got one of the steals in the draft. This is genuinely remarkable how far back A.J. Brown dropped in our draft. He dropped to the 6th round. 6th round. What were we doing? A.J. Brown and Mark Andrews kind of had the same debate during the offseason. Can they replicate their numbers and get that many touchdowns? And A.J. Brown was just popping off for like a slant or just stiff arming like 3 dudes and then getting touchdowns on every time he touched the ball. He only had like 50 receptions last year. But his snap rate last year was so low to the point where it's kind of like Mark Andrews. If they increase the snap rate, then he's going to be a tank. Watch out for the name A.J. Brown. I think we're all going to regret not picking him later this year. Then we had Justin Fear at the 5 spot. And Justin, his bust would be, in my mind, DK Metcalf in relation to selecting him over Tyler Lockett. Justin had Tyler Lockett last year, and Lockett is an absolute PPR machine. And consistency is key to where if you want to start a guy, you know that you're going to be able to get him for, let's say, 10 weeks out of the year. Lockett got injured at the end of the year, and Metcalf, had a good year, but that team doesn't operate without Lockett. Lockett, I think, is the better pick in that instance, and I think that Justin is going to regret that. Yes, he could be making the same argument between Robert Woods and Kupp and I, but I think that he'll look back regretting that. But Deshaun Watson and Adam Thielen dropped back to Justin. Justin got some steals there. Adam Thielen is absolute target monster. Stephon Diggs left from Minnesota, and they have no one to throw to. So look out for Adam Thielen this year. And then we had Dave Bailey. Dave Bailey got James Conner in the third. If James Conner is getting the snap share that a traditional Pittsburgh running back gets, then he is getting like a top 7 back at that point. And that's a steal at the third round. You can't find that kind of value. James Conner, great selection there. But for his bust, Stephon Diggs going to the Bills. Josh Allen is not an accurate quarterback, and that's all that Stephon Diggs was complaining about Kirk Cousins, and even though Kirk Cousins is one of the most accurate. I think it's going to be a tough year for Stephon Diggs to where it's going to be very hard to even start him. So I think Stephon Diggs will definitely be the bust pick for Bailey. Alrighty, and then for the last few, we're going to go with James. And James selected Devin Singletary in the 5th. Devin Singletary had a great year last year as a rookie, but he had fumbling issues and they didn't know if they wanted to trust him, so they selected Zach Moss. And it sounds like Zach Moss is potentially taking over the receiving work for the Bills, and they run the ball a lot. So if that happens, James could potentially regret that as his bust in the 5th. Although James in the 2nd got Josh Jacobs, and Josh Jacobs was an absolute tank last year. He did not even play all 16. I think he was number 14 overall PPR last year. And if Josh Jacobs gets the full workload, healthy, full 16, I would say that he's the number 5 or 6 back by the end of the year. I don't think that's hard to believe if Josh Jacobs makes that leap. Then we had BJ. BJ's team was very hard to find a bust. BJ is very good at drafting. He's been notoriously known good at drafting. And BJ selected George Kittle in the 3rd. George Kittle in the 3rd. San Francisco has no one, and I repeat, no one to throw to. George Kittle is an absolute advantage over other tight ends right now. I think that he's the clear number 1. The bust, which could turn out to be good for BJ, but the bust would be Melvin Gordon. He has the highest odds of potentially losing the backfield to Phillip Lindsay because Phillip Lindsay has shown it again and again, and he already has a rib injury, and we really just don't know what's going on with Denver at all. Their offense looks awesome on pen and paper, but we really don't know how it's going to execute, so that could be BJ's bust in the 4th round. From there, we had Adam Lawson, and Adam Lawson selected Mike Evans over Chris Godwin. I would say that's a bust in that sense that he is not going to outplay Godwin. I think that Godwin is the younger, new hot talent. And for Brady has been kind of doing the short check down kind of throws. Yes, Bruce Arians is known for throwing it down the field, but I don't foresee Tampa Bay throwing it 5,000 yards this year, given the fact that they don't have Jameis Winston throwing 30 interceptions, so they have to come back in every single game. I think that Tampa Bay is going to be good, but I don't think they're going to be great for fantasy purposes like a lot of people think. But to select Evans over Godwin, I think that's going to be a bust. Although Lawson selected another one of the steals of the draft. There was A.J. Brown, which was a steal of the draft, and then Calvin Ridley. Calvin Ridley, he's been a touchdown monster. Atlanta throws the ball a ton. They were in the top 4. And this could be the year where he takes over for targets over Julio. If that happens, Lawson, congrats. You got a great pick there. And lastly, we have my brother. And my brother, he selected Aaron Rodgers in the 7th, which I would say is his bust. Aaron Rodgers has not been the Aaron Rodgers since 2016. He's thrown only for like 26 touchdowns. It's just not the Aaron Rodgers we once knew. It's been like this for 3 years. And It's really hard to see a way coming back. They don't give him wide receivers. They drafted a backup quarterback. I love the guy. I think he'll still throw for 4,000 yards and probably be a top 10 quarterback at that point. But if you're playing for the upside, I just don't think the upside is once there. He'll give you those big games, but not the Aaron Rodgers that we once knew and loved. For my brother's value pick, my brother had Joe Mixon, he had Le'Veon Bell, he had Tyreek Hill. Oh, yeah, that's right. He had Chris Godwin. Chris Godwin at the end of the third round, like I was just talking about, in counterpoint to Lawson. I think that's a solid selection to drop back that far for somebody that's PPR heavy. He's going to be consistent, and he's not going to give you those dud games. I think that Godwin is definitely the go-to right now. So that's all we had. Enjoy football today, and Columbus, Ohio. It's going to be rainy while I come back. Later, y'all. Text you. See you on Sleeper. Bye.